Good afternoon, folks. This is Alonzo, the Godfather of West Coast Hip Hop and the president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce. Today, this month is Women's Month. And I've done a few shows with women. I haven't done one specifically dedicated to women. And today I'm going to interview a young lady who I met a few weeks ago. And I found her very interesting. And as soon as she comes on the channel, I'll be more than glad to share it with you. Her name is Tiffanie Tate, Dr. Tiffanie Tate. We met at an event and we were talking and just having a general conversation. And I found her to be very interesting. And I want to share her story with you as soon as she gets on the line. But I had to start on time because if I don't, Facebook would kick me off. YouTube would kick me off. I got to start all over again. So I'm going to wait for her to get online. She said she was coming on board right now. Just hang with me for a minute. And we will get this show started. But in the meantime, folks, do you realize that the circus is in town? The Universal Soul Circus is right here in the city of Compton. That's right behind the casino. They got the stilt walkers, they got the horses, they got popcorn, they got clowns, they got all the stuff that we know and love. The first time it ever came to Compton. So if you get a chance to, it's going to be here for a few weeks. Check it out, folks. I think it's going to be here to maybe early May, if I ain't mistaken. So get a chance to take the kids. I'm taking my grandkids out there to the circus on Sunday, hang out for a while, and see what the clowns be like. I know the last time they were in Inglewood, my son was like maybe 5 or 6 years old. I thought I was doing a great big daddy move by taking him to the circus, and he couldn't stand the little short guy. We can't call it what it was, but the little short person, little people, he couldn't stand that. He thought that was the most frightening thing in the world. Took off running the whole time, and I spent most of my time trying to calm him down. But hopefully at 21 years old, he can check out the clown and won't start crying. In the meantime, I'm waiting for my guest to show up right now, Miss Tiffanie, Dr. Tiffanie Tate. She'll be here shortly. I'm sure that she told me she's on the way. So we're just going to wait for a minute. Maybe there's a little, she did something different. Okay. Let me try something right quick if I get her in there. She's having an issue. Let me get her on the line. Let me see here. Add guest. Copy link. Take your time, folks. Just stick with me for a second here as I bring my guest on, get her situated. Every once in a while, we do have a slight glitch in the matrix, and it will cause a issue. But we're going to resolve this one real quick. Let's see how we can do this. Stick with me. I guess we'll be here shortly. It'll be worth the wait, trust me. Let me see here. All right, folks, you're live with Alonzo, president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce, Godfather of West Coast Hip Hop, all those good things. And as we wait for my guest to show up, Miss Tiffanie, Dr. Tiffanie Tate. You'll know her story. Very interesting. I just sent her another text. And let's see what she comes up with right quick. Hopefully that'll do it. I may have to give her a call and do it verbally, but I like to put her on camera if I can. All right, we are here. Don't forget, y'all, Universal Soul Circus, right behind the Crystal Casino, right there off of Alameda. I'm sorry, Greenleaf and Alameda. No, that's Artesia. There she is in Alameda. All right, we have made it. I see her in the dugout, and my guest is here, Dr. Tiffanie Tate. Good afternoon, dear.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
I don't hear you as well. You're a little low.
Okay, let me turn up the volume. Can you hear me better now?
Got you now. Much better, much better.
Okay.
How's your day going today?
Actually, it's going rather great. I did water aerobics this morning, and I'm feeling good.
Fantastic. Now, Dr. Tiffanie Tate and I met a couple of weeks ago at a birthday party, and we were just exchanging pleasantries or whatever the case may be. And she told me she was a doctor. Okay, cool. That she was an author. Got my attention. told me she was a speaker, got my attention again, and showed me she was from the area. I'm like, uh-oh, we got to do a show. Dr. Tiffanie Tate, tell us your story, will you please?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised from Compton, and from the age of 2, my maternal aunt, I lovingly call her my mom T. She is my mother's sister. Both of my parents were addicted to drugs, and I never met my father until I actually claimed his body from the prison system. And
Mm.
my mother and father, they broke up early. And my mother, lovingly, bless her heart, she struggled with drugs, and she didn't get off drugs till I was probably around 27. She was always in my life because that was my aunt's sister. And I watched her struggle with drug addiction. And she showed me what it was like to be determined because she was always in and out of rehab. So I watched her struggle with drug abuse, but she never gave up with trying to get over her addiction. But my aunt, she showed me what it was like to essentially work hard because she had 2 kids of her own, and I was essentially her youngest child because she just took me on as her 3rd kid, even though she was a single parent with 2 kids of her own. And so she just kinda sucked me up and took me in. Um, but I mean, growing up in Compton was a challenge, but my mother was one of 12 kids, and I have over 30 first cousins just on my mother's side. So, we were a posse in and of ourselves. Um, and it was good. And life was definitely challenging to say the least. But as a child, in that environment, when my aunt wasn't around, I would say that some of her boyfriends did not like me being there as her bonus child. And I ended up writing the book Bad Touching because of some of the experiences I had with one of her boyfriends. He was very abusive, especially towards me. He was verbally abusive, he was physically abusive, and unfortunately, he was sexually abusive too. And I wrote the book Bad Touching so children would know how to speak up and where to go to get help because I didn't actually speak up till I was in my 40s, and I'm 48 now.
Hmm.
So it took me decades to speak up, and I don't want children to do what I did. And I want them to know safe spaces and safe places to go and what to speak up about and what is and isn't appropriate because unfortunately a lot of times we don't talk about it. And pediatricians actually recommend that you should start talking to your child about this at around the age of 5. But a lot of times, we just don't talk to our kids about this at all. And there are predators out there waiting to do stuff like this to your children. But as for me, I just kind of swept it under the rug and kept pushing. But growing up, I just kind of turned to education. And I was like, if I'm not going to get what I need, I did have love and support from my aunt, and she encouraged me, and a lot of my family encouraged me. So I just turned to academics for love and support. And, there were all those commercials, and Jesse Jackson was like, education is the key to your future. So I was like, well, geez, if education is the key, I want those keys. So I
Okay.
turned to education. And so I graduated valedictorian from elementary school. And when I started middle school, I was about business. I had a briefcase. I was that weirdo kid. So I didn't have a backpack when I started middle school. I actually started middle school with a leather briefcase. So I was that weirdo kid. And when I eventually calmed down and had some friends that were like, Tiffany, you can get a backpack. You might want to pull up, sis. And I eventually, calmed down, got a backpack like normal little kids. And I kind of started volunteering with my church's mission, and I saw sick people. And my father was homeless at that time. At least that's what I had heard. And I would volunteer with the church mission. And I was wondering if I'd met him on the streets while we were serving the homeless, feeding them food. So I never knew if I met my father or not while volunteering with the mission. But at that time, I felt like, geez, I really want to help the homeless and do something. And I was thinking, well, how can I serve people? How can I help people? And at that time, I really had a love for math and science, and I was doing well. So, maybe I'll become a doctor. So that is when I decided to become a doctor when I was around middle school. It was like doctor, engineer. But I figured I would help more people becoming a physician. So that is when I decided to become a doctor. And I graduated at that time. I ended up going to UC Santa Barbara. When I graduated from there, I ended up going to Meharry. But before then, when I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, at that time I thought about going to like one of the top 10 medical schools because I was doing rather well. I was going to graduate kind of with honors, and I was getting all these awards at UC Santa Barbara. And so I volunteered, or actually, I was doing a summer program at UCLA. And one of the radiologists was like, I want you to apply to my alma mater. It's called Meharry. And I was like, well, what? It was not one of the top 10 medical schools. I was like, what, me, Harry? He was like, I know, it's not on the top 10, but I want you to apply to it. It's an HBCU. And at this time, I knew that HBCUs existed, a historically Black college or university, but it wasn't on one of the top 10 medical schools. He's like, just promise me this. When you apply to medical school, just apply to this one. So I was like, okay, fine, sure, whatever. And so I remember I had interviewed at Wayne State and Michigan State, and I interviewed at Meharry. And when I went there was so much love and support, and the students loved being there. And I was like, okay, if I get into this school, I'm going to go there. But I will say it was the first time, I had went there. A student had even picked me up. I'm still friends with him and his wife to this day. But when we were on the freeway, it was the first time I saw somebody pass up their stop, back up on the freeway, and get off. I was like, oh, these people are crazy. They cannot drive. And so, and they still drive crazy to this day.
Wow.
So I remember thinking, this is definitely something special. But when I went to Michigan State and Wayne State, they had tunnels there. And I was like, okay, obviously it gets way too cold from this Southern California girl to be in a place where they have tunnels, where you have to like go from class to class. I can't be in a place where I have to be in a tunnel
Go for
from building to building. I need some sunshine. I can be a little bit cold, but I can't be a lot of cold. But while I was at Meharry, I remember getting a sheet from the first year telling me how much I was going to owe. And I had never seen numbers that high. And I was like, I am never going to pay this off. And so I was like, I need a scholarship, a real good scholarship. And I was looking at different options, and they had National Health Service Corps where you can go to underserved areas. And I was like, okay, that's nice. But then I was looking at the military scholarship. And I was like, oh, I can serve my country and get a full scholarship. And at that time, you can join the Air Force, the Army or the Navy. And I decided to join the Navy because that resonated more with me. I like the ocean. And I thought it was funny, join the Navy to see the world and get sent to Ventura. And I'm like, be from LA, go to UC Santa Barbara and get sent to Ventura, which is right between LA and Santa Barbara. And I ended up doing my residency or internship in Naval Medical Center, San Diego. And after you do your internship, you can serve the fleet, you can go to Japan, you can go to Okinawa, you can go anywhere. And after being in San Diego, they sent me to Ventura instead of going to Okinawa, going to Guam. I thought I was about to see the world. And I was like, oh God, you have jokes. I really thought I was about to travel and go all over the world. And I didn't, and we went to war and everybody got deployed, but not this young lady. I got sent and I stayed portside. But it was fine. I got awards for mobilizing people and everything, but that was not my calling. My calling was to stay right here in California. And it was funny because I bounced like a ping pong. And to finish my residency in obstetrics and gynecology, I was sent right back to Vanderbilt to Nashville, Tennessee. So it was like California, Tennessee. That's just kind of what I did. And when I finished my residency, at Vanderbilt, I practiced in private practice in Tennessee, and then I came back to California, and then at that time, my mom developed lung cancer, and so it was a beautiful thing, but it was a sad thing because I had a chance to reconcile and take care of her, and it was kind of like a difficult thing for me because I was like, okay, God, I had to take care of a woman who didn't take care of me.
Hmm.
So I had to put into practice my faith because I had to come to terms with a lot of kind of like some internal things that I thought I had put behind me. And but it was okay.
Good. Wow. That is a interesting story. Now, where did you go to high school at?
I went to Linwood High. And
You from Compton, but you went to Linwood.
you know how they say, you want to go to the good school.
Right, right.
My aunt still lives in Linwood, and so we kind of just took a bus.
Right. Now, everything. Now, it's amazing. You use your tragedy in your life to propel you to your success. That's an interesting situation. I found that very interesting. Now, folks, along with being a doctor, a veteran, the lady sings opera. Okay, sings opera. I'm sitting at the restaurant. Her cousin, who was a friend of mine, they go to sing happy birthday. I'm thinking we're gonna do the Stevie Wonder version. She breaks out with some paparazzi stuff. I'm like, what? And it was just amazing, blew me away. I said, you got to come on my show. You got to come on my show. I like to talk to people from the community that have various types of success stories. You had every reason in the world to fail. You had every excuse if you wanted to take advantage of it. My mama wasn't there. My daddy wasn't there. I was molested. I had issues, blah, 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 blah. But you didn't let that stop you. And that's why I got you on this show today, darling. I appreciate your story. And by this being Women's Month, women need to hear women's stories. And in your book, you wrote a book to share your story with youngsters. You have two books, right? Or one?
I have two books. I also have an adult poetry book called Floetry, Life, Love, and Liturgical Issues.
I would Centennial. What does liturgical mean?
Religious.
Okay. All right. Okay. Just check it. What is that all about? Give me a little synopsis on that book.
Well, with that book, because when I left California, when I left Nashville, I came to California and I became a partner physician at a local conglomerate, Kaiser Permanente. And I fell out of a trailer and I was medically retired in 2019, right before COVID. And I went through 6 surgeries and I couldn't practice medicine anymore. And so I ended up even having post-operative pericarditis. They even called a respiratory code on me. And so I wasn't very happy because I felt like I had worked all this time and I went through all I did and I overcame all these hurdles to become a surgeon. And I was not happy not being able to practice surgery anymore. So I kind of went into a mild depression and I started writing poetry to get myself out of depression. And my friends were like, oh, you need to publish these. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not a poet. And they're like, Tiffany, you really need to publish these. And I was like, no, I'm not. So eventually I submitted the poems to 2 publishers and both publishers wanted to publish them. And so I always call my poetry book, Floetry, my third baby because I have two children in college.
Okay.
And so my Floetry book is my third baby. And so it kind of helps to encourage people. The life section talks about politics because of the Black Lives Matter movement. It has different things to encourage you. The love is kind of like love and anti-love. It kind of takes people on a roller coaster ride of what you go through. And the liturgical is more of the inspirational to kind of help draw you closer to God. Kind of like what I went through.
Okay. Now, that once again, that's an amazing story. Nothing stops you. You're invincible. Do you fly? Do you have a cape? Is there an S under that chain someplace I need to see? Because that is simply an amazing story. A poet, opera singer, veteran, doctor, surgeon. Now, I know you were a doctor. You mentioned to me that you were a surgeon, but you just mentioned on the show that you were a surgeon. Explain to them what was your specialty.
Obstetrics and gynecology. So, as an obstetrician gynecologist, you deliver babies. Not only do you perform you deliver babies, but you perform cesarean sections. You do total abdominal hysterectomies. You do laparoscopic tubal ligation. So you cut out uteri that people don't want. You get rid of cysts, and you do myomectomies. Cut out fibroids. So you do different type of surgeries. You perform all kinds of surgeries for pain and different things like that.
Have you ever sat down to count how many surgeries you've completed?
And no, it would be too numerous to count.
Are you serious?
Yes.
This is a layman's question right here. When you see a television show, you see a doctor go in, they do one surgery, take off the gloves, and he go home or whatever. How many surgeries would a doctor do in one day, possibly?
It depends. Some days are very busy because I practiced for over 20 years, and then if you include, your training, and if you include medical school, when you're in school, you assist. And so there's just too many to count because sometimes you're covering obstetrics and gynecology, and you're covering the emergency room, and you can do 5 cesarean sections, and then you get called to the GYN suite, and you're doing a laparoscopic tubal ligation, or you're doing an ectopic surgery, which means the fallopian tube ruptured because the pregnancy was in the wrong location, or you're doing a cystectomy, removing a cyst that was in the ovary. And so it just kind of depends on what's going on that day.
Wow. That's amazing, babe. Excuse me, I call doctor. That's amazing. I call everybody babe, but some people, I just got to call them what it is. That's amazing, doc. I mean, that's just amazing. That because when you think about doctors, you don't really think about them doing multiple surgeries in one day. That's just something you don't really think about that. In fact, when I was in the hospital, I'm a prostate cancer survivor, and I looked at how they had us in the prep room. And it reminded me of being at Pep Boys or something. It's like 8 or 9 people and, getting ready to go to various surgery rooms. And I'm like, wow, this is really a business. This is not personal.
Sometimes there's minor surgeries that you can do in the office as well.
Okay. Wow. So, okay. Now, how did you get into opera? That's my next question.
And see, with that, I sang in the choir, but that's just kind of something I do for fun. And, watching TV, watching movies, the sound of music, and it's just something kind of self-taught. Oddly.
Can you sing regularly, R&B, or gospel, or whatever? Or do you prefer? Yeah. You just prefer opera?
No, I sing gospel. I sing R&B. I sing anything.
Wow. Now, have you thought about pursuing your career, a singing career, since you're retired now at 48 years old with just writing books? You got plenty of time on your hands. You might hit the studio.
Yeah, I'll do anything. I'm open to whatever.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. What you told me you're a speaker as well. What do you normally speak about? Encouraging women, or what is your topics?
Yes, I usually speak on women's health. I'm actually I educate family practice and OBGYN residents. I do a lot of education, and I do a lot of Zooms, and sometimes I speak to churches and women's groups.
Okay, interesting. What does your day look like today? What's your typical day for Dr. Tiffanie Tate?
Well, it's usually my dog and I, and I try to do water aerobics as many days as possible. So typically I do water aerobics in the morning at 9 a.m., Monday through Saturday from 9 to 10. So that's what I do first thing in the morning. So that's my me time.
Okay.
And my dog looks at me like, "You're leaving me?" And I have to tell him, yes, I am, because he thinks he's my boss. He thinks he's my man. And I let him know he's not the boss of me. I'm the boss of him. But he thinks he's the boss. And so usually I do water aerobics. And then sometimes I'll stop off at my aunt's house because she lives around the corner. She's my mom too.
Okay.
Because we both live out here in the Inland Empire. And after that, I come home, I might clean up, and it depends on what else is going on. Right now, I'm doing a lot of promotions for my books, so I might do an email interview or a Zoom interview because I'm trying to promote my book right now.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a winner. And where can they find your book at? Your books, I should say.
My books are found anywhere books are sold on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Apple iTunes, anywhere books are sold. And right now, I'm also preparing for my next book that's going to be coming out in the fall, and it's called Little Engine Mia Sing. And that's a book that teaches kids about bullying and where to go and how to talk to people and to prevent it.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Tiffanie Tate Moore.
Anything else you want to cover while you're here, Doc?
Oh, and Facebook. Well, I would say that never give up on your dreams and don't let people put you in a box. Even don't put yourself in a box because I know that I put myself in a box and then I had to take myself out of a box because I only saw myself as a physician. And when I did, I limited myself. And when I lost my profession as a surgeon, I lost my identity. But I'm more than that. I'm a mother. I'm a Christian. I'm a friend. I'm a niece. And I have a lot of other talents that I had to tap into to really find out that I'm actually more than just my job. And so when things get down and when you lose your way, just yell plot twist and figure out, okay, there's more to my life than just my occupation. So when things don't go the way that you anticipate, don't give up, pray, and keep pushing.
Dr. Tiffanie Tate, that's a great way to close this interview. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck in all your endeavors, and I will see you in the near future. All right, folks. We just talked to Dr. Tiffanie Tate, who is a doctor, an author, an opera singer. She does it all. And like I said before, I think she got an S under her chest someplace. She might even fly. In the meantime, folks, this is Alonzo, the Godfather of West Coast Hip Hop, and the president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce, bringing you another interesting interview from the CPT. We're out of here, folks. I'll see you shortly. We'll be back with another interview shortly. Peace.